Today's job, we're going to be replacing that rusted section of this box cutter, and we're going to do it for about 6 meters. So that's the plan. We've got the new box cutter there, and it's about installing it, sealing it, and making sure it doesn't leak. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is see where the box cutters go to, and then we're going to undo some of the screws. Now you'll see when I lay out the box cutter, I've left an overhang which drops into the rain head. Obviously it can be a bit longer because we can always shorten it, but you need to have that overhang. Probably make it at least 100 on something this big. So we've undone the first 3 rows of the roof and the lap on the 4th. You can see that. Now what that does, obviously that just allows us to lift the sheets and get at things. Okay, so when you take your screws out, try and take it out with the washer on. That way you can put them back in anywhere. You want to try and put a screw back in with a washer. That's what makes it waterproof. Otherwise you can end up with a little leak that causes you problems. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, you can see that on the built-in flashing, they've got all the little screws along it. I'm going to take all those out so that we can access the back of that. I'm using an angle grinder here because the snips are difficult to get in, and it'll make a mess of it. And now in a perfect world, it should roll out. But let's see if that actually happens. Now it doesn't seem very big, but you can see where the problem was. There's a little hole in there. There'll be other little holes on the other side. Let's see where we can find it. But that's pretty consistent with the claims that it wasn't too bad when it was raining soft. when it started raining heavy, you were getting lots and lots and lots of water coming through the box gutter. So when that is full, those would be like little taps. Okay, so what we're going to do now is pretty much the exact opposite of what you did to take them out. Only this time we're going to start at this end, up that end, and work back to this end in the complete opposite way. Alright, so just before we put this box gutter in that one, I'm going to show you a little trick which makes it fit better. They're both the exact same size box gutters. I've played a bit with the bends because the supplier slightly overbent it, but for about the first, say 100 mils, all I'm going to do is, you see right on that bend there where it's been bent, I'm just going to give it a little tap with the hammer. Same on this. And all I've done is I've made that about a mil smaller on each side so that it fits perfectly in there and you're not having to fight with it as much. You would have seen me struggling a little bit down here when I was putting that in. Well, that was really just to figure out which should go inside which, because they're slightly different sizes and I wasn't sure which one was the slightly bigger. So it turns out that the existing gutter, which is about normal, I allow to be a tiny bit bigger. So now I've got to seal all that up, and what that does is it allows it to slide in easy. If you try and make it the exact same size, it can be pretty hard sometimes. Now I'm just going to show you on here. Okay, so you can see, I don't know whether you can see that. All right, so that's where I knocked in that seam, and because I've knocked it in, it sits really nice and flush. It will be even better once obviously I put some silicone and some stitching screws on that, but that's why we give just this little section here a good tap with the hammer, and on the other side obviously. So now let's work on doing the joins. First thing, let's mark where it's going. Okay. The reason is it needs a good clean. So I'm going to push it again. Push it back. Alright, now with the wire brush, and if you've got an impact drill, it's worth getting these little spinning wire brushes. What we're going to do is actually going to put silicone under here in a zigzag pattern, put this on top and squish it in so that the silicone becomes like a glue between the two. Then we're going to put stitching screws or rivets up there, it really doesn't matter, and then we're going to seal the join. We're going to do a double seal. And the double seal is a must on slip joints, on box cutters. It's the proper way to do it. Otherwise, 5 to 10 years down the track, you end up with nothing but leaks. You can see what we've done there. We've got silicone underneath, which is now oozing out on the corners, right? And then we've screwed it down. We did that row first, came back and did a row in between, slightly behind. So you've got a zigzag pattern now, okay, and it's sealed underneath. So what we'll do is we'll go along and we'll seal everything up top now, nice and shallow, and that won't move because it'll stop it expanding and contracting with heat. Okay. All right, there's the second one done. All right, and just the final thing on your box cutter is obviously you don't want to leave that flat, which is the end that's dropping into the rain head or off the side. You want to make sure that the water doesn't run back and underneath it. So I'm just going to give it 2 little cuts and just bring it down. So that I know the water is not going to run under it. It's going to run over it. So water now comes down, hits there, runs away. If it drifts back up, because it's got to go uphill, it won't go uphill. All right, so to quickly summarise, remember, if the pieces of tin are too big, cut them into workable sizes. Okay, you're going to roll it out, roll it back in. That's how you get your gutter off. Make sure you undo your screws so you've got easy access. Make sure you seal under the metal before you put the metal on top of the other metal. It creates better seal. And do the zigzag screw pattern. And make sure you bend down the end. Alright, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you find this useful.